to school special. And we're going to talk today to some amazing future ready librarians. I can't wait to hear the things that we'll talk about, and we can also use our chat feature too. So I think that is a really great thing. We're going to put up this bit.ly and you can grab that. And afterwards, we will share the recording too. So we'll pop this into the slides, but you can either scan that or also grab that bit.ly to get to the slides. At the end, just like always, we'll be sharing a lot of resources and a few great things that you can even share with your teachers and fellow librarians as well. So my name is Shannon McClintock Miller. I am the district teacher, librarian, and innovation director at Van Meter Community School in Iowa. I also work as the Future Ready Librarians leader, and my dear friend and colleague Leah Dawson is on too. And so Leah and I get to work with Future Ready Librarians, and it's great. We love doing these webinars. It's a great way to kick off the year as well. You can find me on X and Instagram at Shannon Miller, and I blog at the Library Voice, and you can reach out to me anytime that you might need anything. And so I'm going to let my special guests introduce themselves as well, and we're going to start with James.
Hey everybody, my name is James Allen. I was a school librarian for a long time. I now work at the Department of Education for Kentucky as our school library support person. But I still get to get in schools quite a bit and work with school librarians. So thank you all for having me. I think all my stuff is here in the slides if you want to connect on the, I think I'm all the way off of the Twitter now. So.
Oh gosh. You're on Blue Sky or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. I love it. Okay, now we're gonna meet Lindsay.
Hey everybody, I'm Lindsay Kimmery, and I am the coordinator of library services for Metro Nashville Public Schools. And in this role, I support 130 librarians and about 40 library clerks. And it's so great to be able to, go out and work alongside librarians, to listen, and just be part of the team that's helping set like the vision and the work that we are doing in our district. So prior to this job, I was a middle school English teacher for 3 years and then the school librarian for 17. So this is the start of my 25th year in the library world. It's a good place to be.
That is great. Thank you, Lindsay. And next up we have Nikki. And did she find our link? Do you guys see her I can't see her. We'll come back to her if she gets on, and maybe something happened. So we'll wait for Nikki too. And then we have my friend Veronica.
Hi, everyone. I am Veronica Rodriguez. I am the Literacy and Cultural Studies Specialist at my elementary. I am at an IB campus, so I have a different title. I am a certified librarian. I am in deep down South Texas, Harlingen, Texas. I am also our district lead librarian. This is my 3rd year in this position, and I have my own library. But I also work with our district librarians, and we have 17 elementary schools that I get to go and visit and just work with the librarians and their clerks as well. And it's just been a great experience. I love what I do. And I also get to spend time on my own campus with my students. So I get the best of both worlds.
You do. I love it. Well, I'm so happy that you guys are joining us. And like I said, throughout this, people will be able to also add things to the chat. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to stop sharing my slides, because then we can all be on and we can have just a conversation. And I have some questions ready for our special guests. And so I hope that you guys feel free to also use that just a little chat as well. One thing that I wanted to make sure that at the end, if you are logging on now and you're wondering where the link is to the slides, we will share that again, and the resources that we have as well. And so we'll have all of that for you at the end too. But we're going to start off just talking about, we're going to talk about first building relationships, because I know that even if you're getting back to school, or maybe you go back in September, most people are either back or thinking about all the things that we have to do as librarians. And as we kick off the new year, building relationships is one of the most important things that we do. And I love this as we were getting ready. I don't know who added this to our like planning document, but somebody added a quote from Maya Angelou, and it said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And I thought that was so fitting for what we do as librarians. And so what advice can you give everyone on building relationships within your school community? And let's just go start in the order of how we did the slides. So we're going to start with James.
Oh gosh, great.
Yay!
I think a lot of it depends on how new you are to this. Like in Kentucky, we have so many new teacher librarians. I think, you know, it's just retirements and other issues going on. But I know when I started, like it took a while. Like it was not just this automatic, easy thing, building relationships. And I've been in 4 schools, so I've done it 4 different times. And even some of those, like we had so many staff change, it was basically a new school, even though the building was the same. So I think just being patient and, you know, kind of, it's not a really good answer, but just kind of connecting with the people that are a little easier to communicate with, and then kind of working out from there.
I think that's good advice. Thank you. And Lindsay.
So I'm not the best at setting boundaries. And I know that there are people who leave in May or leave in June when school gets out, and they do not open their email. They do not take any calls, and I admire them so much. That is not me. And I used to, as a school librarian, I wanted to have my stuff all ready to go on day one, because the first week when staff was back, I knew I was going to get pulled so much to help that I wouldn't be able to get my stuff done if I'd waited. And so I just personally just would, you know, plan my schedule, prep my space, you know, do those things ahead of time on my time, because believe it or not, it made me have a saner start to this, or more sane, whatever the word is, start to the school year, if I could just make myself available that week to help staff. I really tried to impress to new staff members that I was someone that, you know, was willing to thought partner, or, you know, if it meant crawling around on the floor with them, helping them find where all their plugs go, that's what they needed from me in that moment. They didn't need a collaborative lesson, you know, or this or that. Like we just literally needed to find their power cord. So no ask was too big or too small, but just setting the tone, like I'm a helper.
I love that. That's so important, because it's just what I think we need, and what everybody needs from whoever it is in our school. So I love that. Veronica?
I have to agree with James and Lindsay. It's building those relationships is very, very helpful. It makes your job a lot easier, and building relationships not only with your staff, but with your students, and also with, of course, your families, your parents. I do like to, like Lindsay, I like to get all of my prep work done, because our teachers come back a few days after I actually come back. So being able to have all of my prep ready to go, and then offering that time that they're here, those work days, and just say, hey, what do you need help with? Oh, I need to connect my document camera, or I need my iPad updated, or can you find me these books for the beginning of the school year? I want to do these lessons. And I'm like, yes, let's do it. I love to help my teachers in any way possible. And then that's for my campus. So I also oversee district librarians. So on top of that, I want to make sure that all my new librarians have their usernames, their passwords for everything that we're using, Destiny, Mac and Via, and so all these great resources. And so not only like making sure my campus is good, but also the district librarians and making sure that they know that they can contact me. And Lindsay, I am just like you. I work and I say, okay, today I'm not going to answer that text message or that email, but then I'm there like, okay, really quick, let me just shoot it out just so that they don't feel like I'm leaving them hanging and didn't want to respond or something. But yes, I think building those relationships and just being able to be there for your staff, be there for your students, be there for your families is key. When I started here, I did a lot of listening and I listened to the teachers. And I was like, okay, I like to try to solve everyone's problems. And I'm already thinking, okay, how can I help them? Okay, I heard she needed this, or this would make her life easier if she knew how to create a Canva presentation, or she wanted to use a Google Doc and hyperlinks. So I do walk around purposely and just listen to see if I can catch something that they maybe don't want to approach me about yet. And then I make note, and then, oh, I overheard you saying you wanted this, or I'll just shoot it their way. And then they're like, how did you know I needed this? And it's like, oh, I got you, friend. Don't worry, you're not alone. So I agree. It's those relationships are key, and they just make the year and your campus just run better.
Well, and one thing too about that building relationships is then we kind of hook them, right? Before we start off this new year. And I think that's great because then they trust us and they know that we have their back, just like you said, Veronica, that we got them. So that is so great too. Also, I think that as we think too about being a future ready librarian and we think about the framework that we have, we know that leading from the library is a big part of that. And so, as librarians, there are so many ways that we can lead from the library. What advice do you have for the listeners on how to do this? And the big thing is when we think about leadership is how do we get that seat at the table this year? I think that is a big one. So we're going to go backwards this time and we're going to start with Veronica.
Um, so that's a very interesting one. So before I came to the campus that I am at right now, um, I remember I didn't have a seat at the table, and it was a little bit hard for me to get in there. But I worked with our communities and schools director on our campus, and I told him, "Hey, if I can get books donated for your event, like, can I help?" And he was like, "Yes." So I started working with him on that. I got some donations, some community leaders I reached out to, and they were able to donate, just little things like pencils and paper and notebooks and things like that for the kids. And so after we did that one project together and the principal heard about it, she was like, hey, can you work with us on this next project? And so just making myself available to a school project and putting myself out there did allow for my seat at the table, because once they saw what I was able to bring, they were like, okay, let's pull her in for this project. Okay, let's pull her in for that project. So by the end of like 2, 3 months, I had a seat at the table and I was sitting with admin and we were coordinating things and working together with other communities in our within our communities, building those partnerships. And so when I transferred to another district, I was able to say, I've done this. I know how to get this running. And that immediately got me a seat at the table. And it's just been a blessing. I've been able to work on so many projects with our campus administrators. And now at the district level, I'm moving into that. So working with a larger partnership. So it's just been really, really great having that, that first little round of how do I get there?
It's great. Thank you, Veronica. Lindsay.
Yeah, definitely agree, Veronica. And also thinking about just your administrator is so key to your library and just your library programming that you're able to offer. And we know with administrators, it's really important that our students are happy and that like our community's happy, parents, families. And so that word of mouth is so important. And so I encourage you to think about um, the opportunities that you're providing for students and how it's meeting the needs of the students in your community, because it's often more than one thing. Like many of us have a book club, but what else could we offer that reaches a sector of the school community that may be often overlooked? What kind of PR do we need to provide or give to families? Is there a back to school parent or PTA meeting that it would be nice to go to and attend and and meet families? And that's hard for us sometimes because we tend to be introverts as school librarians, but sometimes a little goes a long way. So I think, being very student focused, being very community focused, and then think about what feeds your soul. What do you bring to the library? What's your strength? What's your talent? Like the PTO bought a 3D printer for us one time. I didn't ask for it. It was cool. I was grateful to get it. I had no time to figure it out, but I knew I had a lot of students interested in this. So bringing them in and going, hey guys, we got this thing. Let's take it out of the box. What do you think this does? And just empowering, the students to work alongside me to figure out this new wonderful thing that we were gifted to the library. And that's not necessarily something that feeds my soul, but I saw that empowering students to contribute, that promoted student voice, and choice, and it made them super happy.
That's great. I love stories like that too, because oftentimes I think that how we lead is often led by the people that we serve, right? Our students and our kids and our families, just like Veronica had mentioned too. So I love that. And James.
I think something that I didn't really know was as powerful as it was until later. In two of my schools, I joined. I know it's different in every state what they call it, but ours are called site-based decision-making councils, and it's usually like 2 or 3 parents and 2 or 3 teachers and the principal. And I joined in 2 different schools. I joined that, and it wasn't just. I don't think it was just my contributions to the meetings or exact, but I think just being there and those people knowing that the librarian cared about the school, cared about our success, cared about the kids, was able to help solve problems that weren't about the library. I think it just had these trickling effects that made the library a supported program that I don't think the library would not have been supported if I hadn't been there. But I think it just added like this layer of connection that I wouldn't have had. And I know that's hard. Like when I was taking my school library classes, like they talked about joining committees and volunteering. I didn't quite understand what they meant. They didn't ever quite verbalize the benefits, but I think after having done that, I know what the benefits were. So if that's an opportunity for you and you can, you can spare the time, like definitely consider that.
I remember when I first started in the library that I remember sitting there the first year, like listening to the back to school PD. And I was like, oh, this would have been the perfect opportunity for me to do something where I could share with the library. And I know that it's really scary. It's scary to talk in front of like big groups of like your peers at an event. But I can't tell you the difference that that made. And right now, when we're in back to school, or even when our administrators are planning like that PD time throughout the year, that's a great opportunity too, even if it's just, 10, 15, 20 minutes of the time, even 5, just to celebrate and to share like everything that you do within your library can make a big impact too. So that's what I'm gearing up for. We have our back to school day tomorrow. And so that's something, that's a great way to lead from the library as well. We also know that there's been a lot of challenges over the last few years. And I'm sure that a lot of people listening are probably either thinking about it or maybe they're dealing with things within their school and their library. What advice can you give for dealing with these challenges and being prepared for the new year? Let's start with Lindsay.
Yeah, it's definitely been a difficult few years for the school library profession. We're definitely in the spotlight in a way that we never thought would happen. But here we are, and fortunately, we have each other. I think it's great that all of you are here today because this is a community that's good to lean into for camaraderie, for ideas, for support, to hear other people and what they're facing, which helps us sometimes reflect on our own situations and have some light shed on what our next steps should be. So find those communities wherever they are, whether it's here in the virtual space or with your local librarians or your, state organizations. So community is super important. And I think too, going back to administrators and how key they can be to what you do is aligning with your administrator. If that happens in the summer or the beginning of the year or whenever it happens, coming together and sharing like, here's what I'm excited about this year. Here's what I'm concerned about. Here's where I'm going to need some extra support from you. Here's what I want a thought partner on. Just having that time to meet and align and put things on their radar. They may not know, like if we're talking about literal book challenges, they may not know all the ins and outs that you do with your state laws or things that you're facing. So having those conversations so that you can share what you know, so that in the event that the challenges land on your doorstep, that you two are already aligned and can move forward that way. But also, find things that take care of you during this time. If it means saying no to things so that you can get your evening walk in, whatever that looks like, that time where you are taking care of you, I think is more important than ever to prioritize.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, Lindsay. How about Veronica?
So we actually in our district have created we've created some policies in place for some of these things that have been happening. We do have a book selection committee in place. We also have developed a new form so that any patrons that have any issues with any of the books in our collection district wide do have to follow certain procedures and policies and go through the proper procedures that our district has in place. I actually was able to work on this for the past 2 years with my co-partner, and we it is a lot of work, but it's like Lindsay said, you want to make sure you have these things in place. You want to make sure you know where to direct someone in case they do come up with like a book challenge, and you want to know your district's or your school's procedure, because you don't want to just be blindsided and, oh, you want this book removed, okay, but there's procedures and there's policies in place for that. And just knowing what your district has planned out is the first step. We actually had a meeting with all of our LMSs so that we can show them, like, these are the steps. This is what we're going to do. Then we turned it around and showed our administrators, everybody in the district, if any, they knew where to go for the policy. They knew what forms had to be filled out. So just having everybody informed and well versed as far as policies are in place, it does help a lot, because now our admin knows, our school board members know, our all of our directors know exactly where to go in order to be in compliance with any questionable material that are in our library system. So that would be key, like knowing what your policy is for your district and who is the contact person for that. So.
Yeah. James.
I'm kind of just going to echo what Veronica just said. I've been to so many, like, especially in this era that we're in these last couple of years, I've been to so many trainings and webinars and sessions on this topic. And I wish I could quote exactly who said it, but they talked about kind of what Veronica was saying, communicating to the people at your school that you do have a policy. Yeah. And that doesn't mean, like, our principals, just like we have new librarians, we have new principals all the time. And before I was in this role, I knew principals had a lot on their plates, but I didn't quite understand the degree, the level of the different things they have to deal with. So yes, they might have had one class in their graduate work that talked about this, collection development policies or challenges or whatever you want to call it, but that's probably not at the top of their mind. So you got to have, like, at least a short conversation with them just to put that little thing in their brain so that there's not a knee-jerk reaction when something happens, when someone's not pleased with what's going on in school. So, and then what the person said in the training that was so interesting to me was, like, you got to think about who your parents talk to first. So that might be the teachers in your building. They may not know about the policy, and it might affect them too. And then it's also the people who are answering the phone in the front office. Like, they need to know what your policy is and that there is a policy, and just to kind of listen to the parent and let them calm down a little bit and say, we have a policy for this. This is where it is. We can help you get started with it. Like, having that conversation, I think, is super important.
That's great advice. Really good advice. And I think that that's something that, especially as we go back to school, or we might already be there, like, put that on your checklist, because this is all great advice to have as we're in this time too. We also think a lot about, when we think about books and we think about literacy, and we know that's in the center of what we do, core to what we do as librarians, as future ready librarians, and even in the framework that is seen there as well, that's the core, and everything else, that we do supports this literacy and the learning in our students. And I always think this is such a fun time of the year just to talk about, like, special programs and how we foster a love of reading. And I think that people listening to, feel free to use the chat during this time to just drop in ideas that you might have too. But I would just love to know, like, your go-to or kind of your philosophy about how you foster a love of reading within your school, or even supporting your librarians like Lindsay and James, like you do as well, or ideas that you had when you were in the library. So we'll start with James again.
There's a lot we could say. I don't know. It's hard to choose one thing.
You don't have to choose one. You can share more.
That's okay. I know it's been out for a while. Like, Donald Miller has talked about her 40 book challenge for a long time. Yeah. And we did probably not the closest reading of that, but we did something similar where we were not concerned about proving that they read the book or AR points or anything like that. We just wanted kids to celebrate their own reading throughout the year. So we started with a Google form, but we've now, I say we, but the person who kind of replaced me, she's developed a Looker Studio dashboard, which is a Google product, but it kind of ties into a Google Sheet. So that's a whole nother session we could talk about. But the kids basically are logged into their account, right? So it collects their email address in the Google form. The only question on the form is what book they read. It's the title of the book. So they just type the title. They can copy it straight off of the book in their hand and hit submit. That goes to a giant spreadsheet for the whole school. So we can celebrate school-wide reading and, you know, numbers and whatever you want to do. But the kids have a dashboard. They all go to the same link. Looker Studios sees that James Allen is logged in and then shows me how many books I've read and shows me a list of the books that I've read. So I've got my own curated list all year of the things that I've read. And we worked really hard to tell the kids, like, it does not matter. Like, it can be a book your parents read to you at home. It can be an audiobook. It can be an ebook. It can be a comic book. It can be a read aloud for your whole class. And we showed teachers how they could enter it for their whole class all at once. And I just thought it was really cool. In the beginning, the kids would come to us and ask us what their totals were and what their titles were. But with the dashboard thing has kind of made it like another level. So
That is so cool. I mean, I love it when you talk about that because you've done a lot around Looker Studio, but that is such a cool idea.
And I should say her name. Jen Gilbert is like a Looker Studio genius. Like, that is who is still at my last school. So
That's amazing.
I won't like send you all her email address. I don't want to bother her. But she has made some cool things.
Wrote it down. I love it. That's awesome. That's and that's like free for everybody, right, James?
Yeah, it's built into your Google account. I mean,
Yeah.
it's on by default. You know, I've been to some districts where they've turned it off for some reason, but it's there. And it's not an education tool. It's probably a science and business tool, but you can use it for whatever you want.
That's so cool. Thank you for that tidbit. Lindsay, go ahead.
Right. So at the beginning of the year, we really remind our librarians of like celebrating literacy all year is so important. And we really want to bring, joy into the reading that they do. And so we put together like a literacy events calendar. Just here are some easy and cool ways to maybe you want to focus your displays on these topics. Maybe these are the kinds of books you want to book talk in conjunction with a certain event going on. But I see Celia in the chat put we use Beanstack to track reading. We're a Beanstack district as well. So we have monthly district challenges that show up on the student's dashboard, and they can choose to enroll in the challenge. So anything that they read and log their time spent reading. It works kind of like a step counter. I like to see how many steps, I've done at the end of the day. Some days are great and some days are not so great, but it helps a student get that visual over time of like, wow, look what happens when I read 15 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, or, it kind of works in tandem with that Donnell and Miller and Pernille Rip kind of way of thinking about students' reading identities. It's a visual reminder to them of like, oh, wow, I'm really only reading graphic novels. And like, well, that's okay. But if you're looking to vary what you are reading, that's a conversation, that we can have with students. And then we encourage the staff members to utilize it and model that as well. I think we're all kind of rebuilding, or at least I am anyway, and from people I talk to, rebuilding a little bit of reading stamina since the pandemic. But yeah, Beanstack has been a huge help in our district.
That's great. And Veronica.
So this past summer, my co-partner and I worked on developing a literacy campaign for our district. And it took us a while to gather, like, what do we want to include on these? We were very specific and only included, ways that we could build the love of reading back into our readers. So we broke it down every month. We put in at least 4 or 5 different things that our librarians could do in their library with little slogans. We try to incorporate for all levels. So I'm elementary focused and my partner is secondary. So that's middle school and high school. So we tried to, you know, make sure that we had a good amount for both levels to be able to participate. And we picked some great things on there, like National Read a Book Day. And we said for that day, we're gonna promote Dear Time. We're gonna bring that back and have everybody, you know, at 2 o'clock, you know, ring a bell or make an announcement, and everybody's just gonna drop what they're doing and read. Of course, you know, we encouraged our librarians to encourage their classes to step out of the classroom and go outside and go into the hallways and go next door and read with your partners. So these are things that we are developing as a district. As far as my campus goes, we've tapped into different things as far as exposing our kids to different types of books. So we used to have a resource called Mayon, and the kids loved it. It was a great resource. The kids really did enjoy, and the dashboard was very nice. We could see the amount of books being read, the minutes being read, the pages turned, and it was very interactive. The kids loved to see their classes and see, like, okay, who was at the leaderboard and what class was at the top. So it was very user friendly. It did become a little costly for us, so we did not repurchase that. But our teachers do use a lot of Epic. So that one is a free resource for students to use during school time. And I used it as a classroom teacher, and I loved it. My kids loved it. It was an easy way to get them to read and read books that aren't normally in your library, in your campus library. There are different books out there in Epic. So it was a chance for them to see different topics, different authors, pictures, the books. They just came to life for our students. And so it was a great resource for them to have. And if you've ever used it and you were in the classroom, you could see like your class progresses and their little, I think it was like a caterpillar looking thing, and it grew and it grew and it grew. It was just beautiful to see, and the kids got super excited to see how many books they've read and what was the next level. So I kind of still use that as a librarian. And if my classroom teachers don't have an Epic account, I have a library Epic account for my students, and they will log in using my generated code. And I just love seeing that little caterpillar grow. But there's also like so many other things that we've done. We've created little bookmarks with some short videos to show the kids like book previews kind of thing. I know on my campus, we do a lot of QR codes because our kids are 1-to-1, so they have iPads available. And I'll just pop into a classroom and tell the teacher, can I post this little poster on the corner by your door? It's got some QR codes the kids can scan, and they can take a look at some vetted book previews, and they're like, yeah, sure. And I try not to make it like a huge thing. I try to make it small enough so it doesn't take a lot of space on their classroom walls, because they already have so much things that they have to have on their wall. So I like to try to get to the corner and put it by their light switch. So if a kid goes by with their iPad, they can scan it and then go back to their seat. But yeah, we just love to encourage our kids to read more and really read whatever they want to read. I don't ever tell the kids you have to pick something that is this and this and this. I always allow them to choose and free read, because as a child, I just loved reading just for fun and not have to worry about taking an AR test or a quiz that I was going to be graded on. I just wanted to read and just read for fun. So yeah, those are some things that we do.
Oh, thank you, Veronica. And I'm so happy that Nikki is here, because I know that she has so many great ideas around just how to encourage that love of reading in your library. And Nikki is with older kids. So tell us some of your little tips and tricks, my friend.
Yeah, right. I'm so sorry. This is the first day for students and got called for an emergency, and then got here as soon as I could. but I don't know how many high school librarians we have in the call, but reading really starts to drop off around middle school, and then it's almost non-existent at the high school level. So I have a couple of things that I do. One that's been very very well received last year, and the teachers were asking me if I'm doing it again this year, is the Lit Box program. And so it's a subscription program, kind of like Chewy, where you get like the dog stuff or the cat stuff once a month with different themes. And so I do the same thing, different themes. So for instance, in September, it's going to be graphic novels and manga. And so I have cake boxes. Inside the cake boxes, there's different treats and things like I'm giving them chopsticks and ramen noodles that will go in the box. And then I choose 2 to 3 books from the library collection that not only matched the theme for that month, but I also do a genre personality quiz with all the students. So I'll go back and look at the personality quiz and make sure not only am I matching the theme, but I'm also matching their personality quiz so that I know like what they might really like to read. And that's been very well received. I also do personal book shopping. So our students have 8 periods a day, so they only have like 46 minutes in each class. And their teachers just at this level, they don't bring them to the library, although I'm working on that. So the only way they can get a book is if they can run in between classes, which they only have 4 minutes, or after school, which they don't have time. They can come in the morning or at lunch, but a lot of them just can't get here. So I've taught them how to use our Destiny system to put a hold on a book. And I've told them, even if it says in, go ahead and put a hold on the book. I'll get notified and I can go pull it off the shelf, and I walked it down to their classroom. And that was used quite a bit last year. It was really successful program.
That is so fun. I know I love both of those programs. I think it's just so cool. And I love that you're like making sure that even our older kids, that they have a way to just really encourage that love of reading. So
Yeah.
we have about 15 minutes left. And so I have a little bit to share at the end. But one thing that I always love to hear this time of year and see if we're on Twitter or Facebook or whatever it might be is to think about the new things that we might be using. And so do you guys have like some new like hot digital tool, or maybe it's a place for kids to find things to read? I would just love for you to, and if you want to pop like the link to into the chat as you talk about it, you can too. And so let's start with Lindsay.
So something that's been around for a while is Canva, but everyone in our district, staff and students, now have Canva accounts. And so we're just in a new era of Canva, and how just the new level of access that we have, how we are, like as librarians, able to maybe create opportunities to work with other staff who want to know more about how to use it because it's new to them, or maybe they want to utilize features that they didn't even know existed, and then how we're utilizing it with students. Canva does have an AI component, and currently that is the only version of AI our students are using or are supposed to be using. So this year, even though, that's been a minute, it's not necessarily a new tool, but it's just really expanded on a new level in our district. So that's where our focus is this year.
Thank you. And James, how about you?
I'll be quick. I'll mention that the Looker Studio thing again. I know it's a little nerdy, but I've had a lot of librarians reach out asking how they can kind of keep track of what they're doing and the services they provide. And I think a Google form is really easy to keep track of how you're supporting your school, and then you can take that data, and there's timestamps because it's a Google form, so you can filter it by when it happened, and it's super powerful. So if it's interesting to you, I'll put a link in there. I've got some directions to get you started. And then if you have questions, you can always let me know.
Thank you. Nikki.
So how I keep my teachers informed and my students informed at the library programs. I'm sorry, I had to turn and talk to our tech person for a minute.
The question was, are there any like hot new tools or things that you're just so excited to use this year?
Right. I wish I could use them with my students, but the ones my teachers have really just grabbed hold of and are in love with is Class Companion. I told the teachers about it near the end of the year last year, and our AP Spanish teachers used it, uploaded the kids' essays, and then let it give them feedback. And they're like, this is incredible. It saved me like 5 hours of work. It gives them feedback. They can use that feedback to improve their writing. And they were saying the feedback that the AI gave the kids was better than what they would have thought of to tell them. And now our other teachers this year are starting to adopt that as well. So that's the one they're super excited about, that and Magic School AI.
Very fun. I love those two. And Veronica.
I was just gonna share about Magic School AI. That is one tool that our district has taken an interest in, and I actually did a PD with some high school teachers and middle school teachers on just the beginnings of Magic School AI, what they could use it for, and it was great having them on and being able to take some time to get some items ready for back to school. Our district currently is not introducing AI to our kids, although we all know that they are using the tools, right? But we're not. We want to get our policies in place for all of that first, and then push it out. But right now, we are doing a soft push out to our teachers, showing them Magic School AI, CuriePod. Of course, ChatGPT has been there for a while. But there's just some great tools that are just our teachers need to learn and take some time to see um, and kind of just explore how can this be easier for them. And so I know the group that I worked with were very appreciative of giving them that time to explore and create things. So yeah, Magic School AI is definitely on the list. So
I
if you
love that.
haven't checked it out, you need to check it out. It is really cool.
That is a really good one. And I think that it's I'm going to stop sharing here so I can get on the right slide. I think that that's one too that everybody can find like a way to use it, which is so fun too. And so a great one. Well, I hope that you guys like learned so many things. What the heck? I'm having a little trouble here with my that is so weird. Okay, just one second. I think Leah's still on here too. So I don't know why I can't share Leah, but correctly. Well, this has been such a great conversation. What'd you say?
I can try.
I think that you might have to try. I don't know why I can't. And I really encourage you guys too, as we just share some resources, like to continue to get, connected to the Future Ready Librarian group. If it is with our upcoming webinars and with our Facebook and resources, and we're going to share some events too, that we have coming up as well. And so that's all just really great ways that we can like stay connected and continue learning together too. So, oh, good. I'm glad you can share, Leah. Not quite sure what's
Okay, I'm ready.
okay. So I'm going to share just some resources that we have, but I am going to put up the QR code one more time in the bit.ly, just in case that you came in late and you need the slides. This is where you can get to everything, and all the slides are linked to, and so it will be really easy for you to be able to go to these things as well. You're going to have to, there you go. So this webinar is part of our webinar series. We started it in the spring and we have 3 coming up that I am so excited about. We have one coming up in September about STEM. We have one in October coming up about more about reading and transforming literacy. I can't wait for that one. And then in November, we have our annual App Smash. And this is so great because we invite 25 librarians and others on to share just amazing digital tools and resources. So the link is there. You can also scan that QR code. And it's nice because once you register, then you are registered then for the whole series. And I love that how we did it this year. So you can find the information there. Also, oh, and I wanted to share a couple little webinars that are coming up in the next week. This is one that's coming up tomorrow with our amazing partner with Follett, and it's the reading mashup. I can't wait because I get to invite Allie, and Allie actually is Veronica's partner in Harlingen, and Heather's my sister, and she's a librarian in Iowa too. So that one's going to be really fun. And then there is one coming up next week with Capstone, which is another Future Ready partner. And this one is exciting because for those of you who have PebbleGo, you might not know this, but PebbleGo has a lot of new additions and the new PebbleGo suite is just great. So I'm excited to share that as well. Now, when you're looking for resources, if Future Ready is new to you or you need a refresher or things to share, the Future Ready Librarian Hub is the place to go. And on here, you can find I think it's so hard when you can't share your own slides, but turn the slide. You'll find the framework. And so the framework is there. You'll also find the conversation starter and the self-reflection tool. I love using this, especially at the beginning of the year, just to reflect on where we're at and our strengths and how we need to grow. It's a great tool. And the community I mentioned this earlier, on Facebook is always amazing. So many great things. This time of year is probably my favorite because everybody's sharing all their back to school ideas. Nikki has been sharing the cutest things on there and just things that I want to try, and so helpful. So I appreciate everybody and sharing those things. And the podcast, we're getting ready to kick off season 9. And so there are so many great seasons and guests that we have had. And these are just so inspiring because I go back to when I am maybe, working on something in my library, or somebody has a question, or I need, a little bit of just like refresher in my own head. I find them to be so helpful. And so you can find them at the link at the bottom. And this also belongs to a group of podcasts that we have for Future Ready. And you can find all of them at that link at the bottom. So those are all so good. A great thing too to share with others at your school too. And then I wanted to share quick this EdTech Fusion virtual workshop. This is a great opportunity to co-host a workshop in your district. These are free and they're led by myself and Tom Murray and Adam File. They're great because they are virtual, they're 1 hour, they're for librarians, leaders, teachers, and it's all about like ideas and strategies for incorporating digital tools into what we do in our lessons and just thinking about like innovation within your school. So if you're interested in that, you'll find the link at the bottom. And then the thing that I wanted to share, and I had a slide at the beginning, but we had a little bit of a crazy start, and so I didn't get to share it, but the Achievery is probably one of my favorite like new tools. And if you haven't checked out the Achievery yet, you can find the link at the bottom. The nice thing about the Achievery is that it is digital lessons from your youngest learners all the way up to your oldest learners. This is from AT&T. It is, again, totally free. And it's partners that have put together videos and lessons on any topic that you might support or that you might teach. And the collaborators from Cartoon Network to Scratch to Common Sense Media, so many that aren't even on this slide that I absolutely love. And they have put them together in videos and little lessons that are great even for us as librarians, because they take like a short amount of time, but it's also a great thing as you're collaborating with your teachers to be able to share too. And so these are really nice. And I think on the next slide, there is a link where you can sign up, and feel free to share this then with others within your district too. So a great, great site. And I love this because I always put this in my toolbox of things to share with our teachers. And this is one thing that I know last year that they love, because we know that kids love little videos and a lot of characters the kids already know too. I'm also excited to share a few events that are coming up across the country. One of them is on October 19th, and this is in Arkansas with our good friend Ashley Cooksley. And it's going to be great because it's a whole day of just being together as librarians in our summit. And so you can find the link at the bottom to find out more. And we're also getting ready for our Future Ready forums that we have been hosting. And these are going to be in Texas and Minnesota and in New York this year. You can also find the link at the bottom there to be able to sign up for those. And so September, October, and November we'll be hosting them. But I am so happy that you guys joined today, and stay connected with us. I hope you sign up and come to the webinars that we're going to have this fall. And a huge thank you to Follett Content for all of your support in supporting the Future Ready Librarians program. And so we really appreciate that too. But thank you to my special guests, to Lindsay and Veronica and Nikki and James. I could talk and listen to you guys all day. And so it's great to just be together as we kick off a new year. And feel free to reach out if you guys need anything. And we'll see you in September.